Trump opening up about his regrets from 2016 and what he would do differently if elected in a year or so.
I wouldn't have put a guy like Bill Barr in. He was weak and pathetic. I wouldn't have put Jeff Sessions in. There are some people that I wouldn't have put in.
Why did you put them in the job then?
Because every president, you put somebody in, you think they're good.
So you didn't know what to expect?
No, I didn't know the people. I know the people now better than anybody's ever known.
But you didn't drain the swamp.
I did. I fired Comey. I fired a lot of people. A lot of the people I fired. I fired Comey very early. And, you know, there was a question as to whether or not you could. But I fired Comey. If I didn't fire Comey, I don't think I would have been able to serve out my term.
Monica Crowley served as Assistant Treasury Secretary under former President Trump and joins us now. Hey, Monica. Great to have you here.
It's great to see you.
What do you think? Did he drain the swamp?
Well, look, one of President Trump's enduring strengths and really one of his biggest bases for his appeal is that he wasn't out of Washington. He wasn't part of the establishment. He wasn't part of the swamp. And so in 2016, he ran on this premise that he was going to drain the swamp. But one of the big drawbacks of not being part of the Washington establishment is that he just didn't know. He didn't particularly know how the system worked or how many people he was going to have to appoint to key positions. So he was really reliant on others to make these recommendations. And some of these people were not particularly as America First as he was, maybe outright even hostile to him and his agenda.
But Bill Barr was an MVP of that administration till the end when he didn't agree on the outcome of the election.
Well, you know, President Trump, look, you can revise your opinion on certain people that you appoint. And remember, there's a vast number of positions that any president has to fill. So you're going to get some bad eggs here and there. I will say this. He had 4 years in the end to take on a whole array of issues. And he did an extraordinary job in a short amount of time, bringing the economy back, rebuilding our military, getting the border and illegal immigration under control, ending our involvement in foreign wars. And so I think when he is reelected and enters office in January of 2025, he will take that hard-earned wisdom and make sure that all of his personnel is totally in alignment with the America First agenda.
He only had 4 years, but if he is reelected, he'll only have 4 years. And he couldn't drain the swamp the first time, and now you hear him complaining about all these people he hired. Whatever happened to the buck stops here? He was the guy ultimately whose name was on the line with, I hired these guys. Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, I think his opponents in the Republican primary are certainly going to exploit that line of attack. And he has answers for it. And it's primarily the answers that I laid out. Did he thoroughly drain the swamp? No, he didn't. But he was so distracted with the massive, never-ending assault on him and his presidency coming from the deep state, the permanent administrative state, the propaganda press, and so on, that he was fending off so many attacks at the same time that I think next time around he will take that hard-earned wisdom and make fundamentally different choices, and you will see an astonishing second term for President Trump.
What's the future for this? We have Iowa, then New Hampshire, then South Carolina. We have two candidates from South Carolina. DeSantis is all over the state of Iowa. Kim Reynolds is going to be the governor of Iowa, going to be on our show later today. What does this look like going forward as we're about a month away from that first debate?
Yeah, well, the debate will be interesting. We'll see if President Trump
really
shows up.
So do you want him to?
Well, look, I mean, he's so dominant. He's running now 40 points ahead of Governor DeSantis, his nearest competitor, that there's no effective reason for him to show up and be a punching bag. Now, nobody counterpunches better than Donald Trump. I'm not concerned about that. But for him, there's no real incentive for him to show up. But he may. I mean, he's the ultimate showman, so he's keeping everybody guessing, including Fox News, about whether or not he will join. But look, he is not an unknown quantity. It's not like he has to go out there and establish name recognition and show everybody who he is. He's got a long track record as president, very successful policies. Everybody knows him. And I think effectively the Republican primary is over.
And he has said, you know, I don't need to debate because I'm so far ahead. I think if they had a poll, a majority of Americans on the Republican side would say we would like to see him at the debate. So let's see what happens in a month. Yeah. Monica, thank you very much for joining us.
A pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.